So recently I posted on Reddit this post that shows the deck I use to get a top 8 at a set championship, and someone wanted to know what's the proper way to play this deck. So today let's talk about my landlord deck. To start, let's drop the deck list here. There'll be a link in the description. Some guy in the Reddit comment section turned my deck into a dream board list, so I'll drop that down there in case any of y'all want to see it. Fun facts about this deck. It beats decks that go into $600 territory, but it costs all of... So, we got the frog outfit on today. It's a bit cold outside, and this Spirit Halloween costume is the warmest thing I own, so let's talk about what is the goal of this deck. Is it a lore rush deck? Are you challenging a bunch of people, breaking their field down and questing? What are you doing? So to start, it's kind of an early game deck, if I'm being honest. At its best, I feel like that's really where it shines, is early game, if your opponent's playing something that takes a while to get going. But it really can last until the mid and even late game, dependent on how good your draw power is and just generally how the game is running, what you're going against. So like, for example, against something like Steel Psalm, I would say it's a very mid-game deck. You're not gonna win but against something like Blue-Red, it's definitely like you wanna rush them as fast as possible because you only have so many turns before Lady Tremaine and everything starts coming out. So to follow with that, let's go through each section of your deck. Let's talk about your draw power. So for draw power, you really only have two options, and that's Daisy and Shinzi. Daisy's cool because Daisy stacks on top of daisies. And for those who don't know, whenever a pirate character quests at a location, Daisy allows you to draw a card. That involves her too. So even if she's the last one out, being able to just move her to a location, quest her, draw an extra card, and then figure out what you're doing is really important with this deck. You always take the draw before the play. That is a big rule in this. Take the draw before the play. You don't want to play a card and then find out after you drew that you could have had a you came back. Like, there's plenty of reasons to always just take the risk and quest her overall. Then Shinzi's another location-based character. When she's at a location, she gets +3 attack, and when she challenges another character at a location, you get to draw a card. So her paired with, of course, Hidden Cove, she now becomes a 4/7. That's a body that's pretty specific in this game. I think the big reason she stands out is because she can't be banished by World's Greatest Criminal Mind. She can't be hit by most things that aren't like a Lady Tremaine, because Brawl will still need some ice blocks in order to work. She has a big enough body that you can hit something, draw a card, you come back, re-ready her, hit another thing, draw another card. That's a pretty common action I try and play in this deck. I think she's just a great overall card that doesn't see enough play and super cheap. I mean, I think right now she's going for 30 cents. We'll put the price right there. But yeah, those are your main draw power in this situation. As a follow-up to that, Shinzi also pairs very nice with Thieves, which allows you to, when you banish a character, you gain 2 lore if you're at Thieves. So that would make her a 3/6, but still a 3/6 is pretty good. Can be banished by Madame Medusa, but I do notice if Thieves is my only option, I'm not exactly sad about that. So for lore gaining cards, there's a couple I feel like I should specifically address. For example, John Silver, he gains a resist and a lore for every location on the board, which is really good, but he's not exactly questing every turn. There's plenty of turns I don't actually use him to quest, and I think that's what a lot of people miss. He's only really worth questing with if you have at least 3 lore on him. I think otherwise it's much better to use him as an attacker to take out things like Madame M. Fox and more important engine cards that really disrupt the game. But if you do get him up to 3 lore, he starts giving you really good income. The big thing about that is when you have cards with high health out, like 7 Dwarves Mine or Thieves. 7 Dwarves has 6 health, Thieves has 7 health. That's a really stacked board that most people aren't going to be able to get rid of very easily. And 7 Dwarves already gives you 1 lore as is. Just don't be greedy about it, don't try and gain more. You take the lore from your locations. If you're in a good board state, then quest John Silver. But if you only have a 7 Dwarves mine out, and you know that next turn they might drop a Fox, don't quest John Silver. He's too important to get rid of that easily. He's a good attacker, an even better quester, and no matter what, you should be willing to do what you need to. Next up, I would like to say we have Deville Manor. This card is typically one I don't try and drop early game. I know a lot of people would try and drop it on turn 1. I honestly don't see the point. I also don't see the point of dropping it just for the lore in general. I think the lore is a bonus, but with it having such low health, it's really just a way where if I get wheeled into a new hand or something, or draw a bunch of cards, I really only drop this because its movement is so cheap that if I need to move a character to a location in a pinch, Deville Manor's there. On top of that, being able to play it when you need your John Silver to quest for a game, it's just another location to draw, play, quest for more, and it's more stuff they have to get rid of. But in the rare case that your opponent isn't attacking it because they don't understand the point of your deck, which is incredibly common in the current meta state, then this actually can get you quite a bit. Just at the set champ I was at, this card stayed out for 5 turns. I got 5 lore. That is a quarter of what you need to win, and in the meantime, I wasn't questing any characters. I was just hitting out all of their stuff. They were running out of cards. By the time they realized what lore I was at, just by this one manor being on the field, it was too late. They didn't have the draw power, they didn't have enough cards to really get rid of it, and all my guys, my board was stacked. So that's really the power of this. If they know what they're going up against, it's really not that good. But if they don't, this can actually save you really quickly. Another early game card, we have Mickey Mouse, Food Fighter. He's good. I don't use him as much for attacking unless it's to take out things like Daisy Duck, where most of my guys don't have like 4 attack. He won't take a damage from hitting like a Daisy or a Lilo or something. He's an easy, quick hitter, and he's not going to die to something like Storm, which is what makes him a really good turn 1 play. Turn 1 Mickey Mouse, can't really go wrong. There's just nothing anyone can play to get rid of him, and the best part is you move him to Cove and he becomes a 2/3 with 1 resist, which is just overpowered on turn 2. But yeah, he's gonna get you what feels like passive lore, because no one's really gonna try and take out your little 1/2 character with 1 resist. He's just annoying. He sticks on the field once he's out. Of course, we got to talk about 2 of the elephants in the room, if you've seen the deck list, Mr. Smei and Go-Go. Now, Go-Go and Mr. Smei do look like good questers and good lore getters, and I will admit, Go-Go does get used frequently for the ability if she happens to be on my hand still by turn 4. But more often than not, she's there to take out Diablo by being an evasive. She is there to trade. On top of that, Mr. Smei is a good quester, and he's very sacrificial. You definitely do just use him to get a big body on the board and get him taken out, just like in any deck. He's just there to be a sacrifice that gets you some lore sometimes. But more often than not, since this is a pirate deck, you can keep him out forever. And I mean, if you start getting a bunch of Smeis on the board really quickly, like I just played a game that had 2 Smeis, 2 Captain Hooks. That's not great, but it really does work. I find more often than not, I like to use him to take out things like Madame M. Fox or whatever red card. If I see a Mulan hit the board, I like to use him to take it out. I'm not risking that red Mulan coming out anytime soon. Another location that should probably be talked about in this sense is the Galactic Council Chamber. Turn 3 card. More often than not, this goes into your ink, except on one condition. See, it has a very good ability that not many people use. If an alien character is there, it cannot be challenged. That is incredibly good. I find it's a good way to kind of force the win almost. Just like I was talking about Deville Manor earlier, this is another card where not only does no one want to try and challenge it because it has too much health, but it just stays and gains you passive lore. I don't think there's been many games where I placed this out and people actually managed to take it out unless I'm playing against a red deck. But putting John Silver there as well, that negates Maui. It negates a lot. You'll notice John Silver again not questing, just adding to your board state. I like to play more than like 2 locations, place John Silver out, move him here, and then not even quest him. Almost treat him like a Flynn Rider. Like, he's just there to guarantee I get this lore. And then finally quest John Silver out when the time comes where I know he's probably going to die next turn anyway. We'll do that. But really, really good card. Really, really cheap movement cost. This works as well for Shinzi and Daisy and all those characters. A way bigger hitter than I thought it would be in this deck was Donald Duck Buccaneer. I find more often than not, this guy saves my ass so many games. See, in a deck like this, where your turn 1, 2, 3, and 4 can all just be not questing, because you don't want to get rid of your characters, you need to have as many on the board as possible, pretty much. And that's not for Weenie Rush, that's just how this deck works. The more you have, the better. This guy comes in handy so quickly. He works really well with that Thebes card we brought up earlier, really well with Hidden Cove like every other character does. But if you just, let's say, for example, I played this game where I had a turn 1 Mickey, a turn 2 Captains, a turn 3 Smei. I happened to have this one card left in my hand, and I played him. And the very next turn, I was about halfway to winning. There was nothing they could do. And he acts as a captain. It's perfect. This is your lore getter. He's not a lore getter in the sense that he quests, but he will be able to basically dominate the board state. Finally, let's talk about your game enders, game finisher. There's only 2 of these in the deck, but he does come in handy sometimes. Goofy... They won't shut up. Goofy Expert Shipwright. With 3 lore and ward, it is just, I'm going to play this. You're not going to get rid of it. There's just nothing anyone can do aside from like a Lady Tremaine. Because even with 4 health, I mean, what are they going to do? It's not like anyone's playing this card right now. Even if it was the last card on your board, you're probably fine, honestly. But also, being able to quest and give something else ward is insane. So there's only 5 cards you're really looking for in a mulligan, and I'll put them in ascending order from worst to best. Captain Hook, he's a good card. I really do like him, and I think he's very necessary to play. But it's not necessarily like I'm willing to give him up if I don't get another card I need. Especially if you're going second, if this was my only 1-drop, I'm probably not even playing him, honestly. Next up, I'd say would be Mr. Smei. Mr. Smei's really good. He's another 2-drop. I think he is a pretty necessary component to have in your hand, because whether it's for ink or just for that turn 2 powerhouse, I don't think there's really a way to go wrong. There's still really not much removal that gets rid of him fast enough. If I'm not mistaken, Brawl only targets 2 attack characters. So even if you played him turn 2 and your opponent's basically on their turn 3 play, they can't really get rid of him. So I find him to be like an absolute staple of this deck's mulligan. I'd say Mickey Mouse, though, is a bit more important. This is the best turn 1 play, possibly. As far as characters go, best turn 1 play. It is a perfect way to establish everything you need to win a game. Hidden Cove, I'm not saying this because you want to play it turn 1 or turn 2 necessarily. I'm saying this purely out of the sake that this card is so essential to making sure cards like John Silver don't die as easily. Finally, this is the most important card you are ever going to mulligan for. Doesn't matter whether you're going first, doesn't matter whether you're going second. You need this card in your deck whether you know it or not, and it shows. Fire the Cannons. Set 1 card. Some people use it, some people hate it, some people love it. This is the most essential card to this deck. People ask how you keep tempo going, how you do anything with this deck. It is this card. This card only. There is pretty much no characters besides the Daisy Duck that come out on turn 1 currently in this meta that do not just get insta-wiped with this card. And better yet, sometimes turn 2, sometimes even turn 3. This card gets rid of everything that actually is important. And generally speaking, not getting rid of Daisy isn't a bad thing. They might be getting 2 lore, you're getting free character cards. You don't actually need those locations majority of the time. But getting that free draw power off of Daisy is really helpful with this deck. So that's not even a bad thing. But this is what you mulligan for every single time. I think I should talk about what are you doing dependent on color combo. Speed through this as fast as possible. If you're playing against blue-red, you're going to rush as fast as humanly possible. You only have a couple turns, and then they're going to be playing Lady Tremaine and all that other stuff that I don't like. So, rush them as fast as possible. John Silver, 5 locations, whatever you can do. Don't even worry about draw power. Run your hand out. Against Steel Psalm, you're waiting for more of a mid-game win. You're just trying to take out their stuff as fast as possible, honestly. That's how Steel Psalm works, is control, but if you can get rid of all their singers, then you're safe, so get rid of Cindy. If Ariel comes out, it's fine. You can probably get rid of that too, but I wouldn't be too hopeful. Unless they exert Ariel, you're probably screwed. Try and play out a couple locations to shift their aim from your characters to your locations. That's one of the biggest reason I have Thieves in this deck, is as a 7 health location. If you play that and you threaten to get more lore, or you threaten to take out their characters and gain lore with it, like you make it clear what you're trying to do, which obviously you're not in this case, but they'll target it. Typically you're trying to fish out most of their actions out of their hand, so also playing things like Sticky Mickey Food Fight, where it kind of, they need to play something better than Storm. It'll fish out cards that are just too powerful for a Mickey, but you used it anyway, so now it's going to be your turn. You're going to play even better cards, and then they're not going to have what they need to deal with it. That's the goal against Steel Psalm. If you're going against red-purple, Godspeed. If you're going against red-amber, really it is just get that Fire the Cannons, take out Mulan, make sure nothing you leave, nothing you attack stays with damage on it. It needs to be killed. Especially around turn 4, you cannot risk a Rapunzel coming out. Red is already strong enough without drop power. With that drop power, it is the nastiest color to go against. If you're going against blue-purple, this is kind of like a mid-range case. I would say rush them, but also don't run your hand out this time. Try and get some draw power going and hit out those foxes as quick as possible. If you're going against Emerald Steel, again, Fire the Cannons. Get Fire the Cannons in that hand. If you don't get Fire the Cannons, hope for Go-Go, and if you don't get Go-Go, Godspeed again. Hope you get Storm. If you don't get Storm, you're screwed, honestly. But to be fair, against Emerald Steel discard, I would just say run that hand out. I mean, what are they going to do? Emerald Steel is a generally mid-range deck, but in reality, it is very, very slow in comparison to what you're playing. A little bit of overview. This deck I've been playing since set 3. It started as a joke, but it's kind of just become its own thing. I saw that we've had Amber Steel location decks start popping up. I don't truthfully believe that it's nearly as good as Emerald Steel. I've been playing Emerald Steel locations since I started playing locations, and I think this is the optimal amount of location to character variety specifically. That's always something that's really hard to get right. I think the Amber Steel ones lean a little too heavily into locations, and this doesn't. I know that's hard to say because of like Daisy and Shinzi and John Silver, but generally speaking, they're good characters on their own anyway. So, will you win a set chance with this? No, not really. Sorry if this one's kind of just like a tangent video. I'm not very good at editing, and I'm not very good at shutting up, so here's some side notes for this deck. Number 1, don't always quest. Weird video, first TCG video I've ever done. I might make some more follow-ups on this for like weird decks I have. I got some non-competitive ones that I've looked at in the past, but I really don't find anything fun in Lorcana unless it's a bit more competitive. I think that's just kind of how the game is, though. Especially with weekly tournaments. Unless your deck is like hyper functional and synergized, I don't think there's much going on. I think at that point it kind of, to me at least, feels like I'm just playing with like a pile of cool cards I saw when I was a kid, you know, like almost like Yu-Gi-Oh. Anyone play Yu-Gi-Oh when they were a kid? Just buy a bunch of booster packs and go, yeah, this is good, I guess. Hopefully, if you're coming from Reddit, this explains a little bit further what this deck does. And if you're one of the people who knows me for yo-yoing, I guess I'm glad you made it to the end of this video.